Welcome to the Communication Diva Podcast, episode 117. Today on the podcast, Jen interviews Lee Caraher, author of The Boomerang Principle, Inspire Lifetime Loyalty from Your Employees. I'm extremely loyal to my employer. In exchange for these podcast introductions, I receive 2 meals a day and a comfy bed in the corner that, in the winter, Jen drags in front of the fireplace where it's warmer. I know the name of the game, boy. They call it riding the gravy train.
Hey, this is Jen. Welcome to the Communication Diva Podcast, the podcast that helps you to get the job, to love your work, and to advance your career. I'm going to be bringing you today my conversation with Lee Caraher. She has so many things to her resume that I probably let her tell you most of them. But she has written a book that is coming out in April of this year called The Boomerang Principle, Inspire Lifetime Loyalty from Your Employees. And she's going to be talking a little bit from the perspective of the employer as well as from the perspective of the employee and why workplace loyalty is such an important element to a lifelong relationship, and it's to the benefit of all, according to Lee. So I'm looking forward to bringing you this conversation, and I will let you know where you can find all sorts of information about Lee and what's happening in the world of Communication Diva at the end of the show. So enjoy the episode. So welcome to the Communication Diva Podcast, and today I've got my guest Lee, and we're going to jump right in and tell me a little bit about how you came to be doing what you are doing now, Lee.
Sure. So my whole career has been in public relations and communication. I graduated from school with a degree in medieval history, very useful, and didn't know what I wanted to do. And my friend Ramona said, I think you should go into PR. So I figured out what that was, and it sounded like it was for me. So that's what I've done for my entire career. And today I own a public relations and social media firm called Double Forte. We are in San Francisco and New York. That's where we're headquartered. And we have about 33 people. We're 15 years old, and we work with companies who are in the consumer packaged goods area, consumer lifestyle, digital life, business to business, and wine. And
wine.
I know. And wine. I love saying that. Actually, I have to tell you, the truth is they don't let me very close to the wine clients because I don't know a lot about wine except what I like. So, they're like, yeah, just smile and look prettily.
There you go. There you go.
Part of that has been my whole career has been managing large teams, small teams, large teams. And I was really well known for that. Didn't really think much of it. And then when my own company decided to change our business model from just hiring people who had at least 10 years of experience to hiring college graduates, which I'd always done before I started my own company, I never thought I'd have to adjust anything because I was known for being able to bring young talent into my organization and then help develop them and all this kind of stuff. Well, I failed miserably and found out what a millennial was. And so, and when I found out what a millennial was, it was so negative that I just had to throw it all away because an entire generation could not be entitled. It's just ridiculous. And since then, I'm on a mission. I'm on a mission from God to help companies of all sizes and people, employees, have really good intersectional work. So companies that have good cultures are ones that are sustainable, and people who have good habits and good expectations and work behaviors that most people aren't taught anymore can have great careers, and we can make those things happen together. So a few years ago, I published my first book, Millennials in Management, The Essential Guide to Making It Work at Work. And soon I published my second book called The Boomerang Principle, Inspiring Lifetime Loyalty from Your Employees.
Wow, that's a lot. And you've got podcasts and kids.
And I have two podcasts. Yeah, one podcast is Focus is Your Friend, which is for marketing people. Often we hear from, often in my business, we hear all the time, they want to do this and that and this and that, and they have $1 to spend. So we, on Focus is Your Friend, we really talk about how to focus on one or two things and do them really, really well. And then my other podcast is Everything Speaks. And Everything Speaks came out of the work, the Millennials in Management work, really for college young adults and early millennial, sort of 20 to 27-year-old group who are working and who are trying to figure out this whole career thing. And it comes out of the work that we did, which was really where mostly boomer employers or managers were sort of discarding millennial talent because they didn't know what the rules of engagement were, because those things aren't taught anymore. And that's what we try to do on Everything Speaks, is talk about the manners that matter in the workplace, and then also interview people who have had interesting sort of nonlinear careers, just to show people that, so many college graduates are sort of paralyzed by, like, what am I going to do with the rest of my life? And we hope to show people that they don't have to decide that, when they're 20, even 18 or 21 or 22, that any career can take you to any career.
So it sounds like diverse interests and an awful lot. Like, when do you sleep is my question.
I have a great team. I set my company up to work well for me, which is I am excellent, where I really thrive and where I'm most valuable in my company as a practitioner is in the pregame and football. In American football terms, we call it the pregame, the kickoff, and the 4th and 1. So, when you're figuring out what to say and do, getting it off the ground, and when, the game's on the line, right? So if something's going wrong, send me in, coach. I'm the person you want there. But I'm not as functional and not as valuable in the day-to-day. So I run a company, which I'm very valuable at. I'm really good at that. And that's where I share my work, how to run, how to lead a company is where I share the stuff from my book. My husband works half-time and is he used to be a chef, and then when our older son went to boarding school a few years ago to pursue his music career, my husband became for lack of a better term, a social worker, helping families with special needs kids figure out the system here in America. And because we are a family with special needs child, my second child, who's now 16, is developmentally challenged and has a chromosomal disorder. And just sort of figuring all that out. So that's what he does professionally and now personally. So he's the chief home officer. I am the chief bring it home the bacon officer. And we make that work together.
That sounds like it's a busy household for sure.
It's busy, but fulfilling.
That's great. That's fabulous. Well, today we're going to talk about workplace loyalty. And my first question when I saw that in the tagline of your book, The Boomerang Principle, when I saw that, I thought, doesn't that seem to be not as important as it used to be? Mm-hmm. It just seemed to be an impression that I got that especially with the millennial generation, and maybe this again is stereotypical information that has been floating out there, is that people aren't as, you don't go to a company and stay there for 30 years anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think there's a few things in there. One is there's a lot of people who are not dedicating enough time to helping particularly younger millennials, 22 to 27-year-olds, become as productive as possible in the workplace, because they think that millennials are not loyal, that they're just going to job hop, and I'm going to put all this time in and just to get them ready to go, and they're going to leave me. So why should I spend any time? And there is definitely a resentment there from older people. And some of it's because they can't leave. They feel like they can't go get a new job, right? They don't have as much flexibility and mobility later in their careers, just given what's going on in the workplace today. And part of it is a sort of this old anachronistic feeling of, once you leave me, you're dead to me. Right. And I hear that all the time.
Really?
I thought that was dead. I really did. And I hear that about once a week. Once a week, I go and meet with people, or I give a keynote speech, or I go do a workshop, and I get someone who says, once you're gone, you're dead to me. And I am, again, like I said, on a mission to change that. So I think a few things. One, the old paradigm of, you come work hard, we take care of you. That's what loyalty means. First of all, that doesn't exist anymore. Companies killed that, right? So it wasn't people who killed that. It was companies who killed that. At the same time, if you are only measuring employee loyalty by the duration of their tenure or how long you give them a paycheck, you are missing out. You are missing out on a huge opportunity to improve and increase your company's footprint and importance and relevance in the marketplace. And if you can keep your employee alumni close to you over their entire careers, well, that's only positive. And then on the flip side of that is you should, the boomerang principle is those organizations that allow and encourage their former employees to return have a strategic advantage over those that don't. And we can talk about the reasons why, but that should be the mindset today. And on the flip side for the employees is you might be at a company, say, I've been here for 3 or 4 years. I want to do X, Y, or Z. X, Y, or D does not exist in this environment. I love this company. I love these people. I love the work I'm doing, but this is not where I want my career to go. Just because you leave doesn't mean you shouldn't consider coming back when your skills and where the company is match up to what you want to do then. So on the company side, I really want to encourage companies to not have this "you're dead to me" attitude and to put the mechanisms in to keep close to their former employees and to bring people back when it makes sense. Not anybody can come back when it makes sense. And then for employees, how do you have a career that might weave in and out of an organization 2 or 3 times as employees or partners or referrers or advocates or contractors? And that's what the boomerang principle is all about.
Right, because loyalty, and one of the things that came up while you were talking was that not even if you don't ever go back to that company, there are different forms of loyalty. So
Absolutely.
Being able to say good things about that company and being positive, because word of mouth is so powerful, that would be a form of loyalty as well.
Well, it's even more powerful. Yeah, you can be loyal to your former employee and never work for them again. Right. But you could be referring people. A former employee who says go work there is the fastest way to recruit great people, right? If you have a legion of people that are out there in the universe saying, if you want to do X, Y, or Z, you need to go work for that company. You've just cut your recruiting fee down to a quarter, and you're recruiting time in more than half. And you have people who are looking to you. You don't have to go fish for them. And really what we're talking about is those knowledge workers that are going to be the difference. The knowledge worker who is the great performer, the great team member who can make stuff happen. These people, no matter what the economy does, are always going to be in high demand. And there are not enough of them. There are not enough of them. So we need to be doing everything we can as an organization to keep those high performers close to us in some way, shape, or form.
So let's look at maybe what some of the things you would say to an employer would be, and then what you would say to an employee, because how do we get to where people are loyal to each other?
Yeah. So I think the first thing for an employer is, as soon as you hire someone, they're going to leave you. We know we're not hiring people for the rest of their lives, right? So we know they're going to leave us. So why don't put any effort into countering people if they come in with another job offer and say, if you just counted me 10% more, don't put any effort into that. Don't put any money against countering ever. And it's good money after bad. Number one. Number two is if you put all of your effort into the angst of worrying about people who are going to leave you, what you're doing is ignoring the people who are, around your table doing the work. So instead of sort of doing the triage work on the back end, I recommend, and what we do in my own company is put all that energy into the front end, which is, hello, Jen. Thanks for joining the company. What do you hope to get out of this experience? Okay. Where do you've seen some of what we do here. What looks interesting to you? Blah, 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 blah. And sort of talk about that person and what they aspire to do in the context of what your company does. And then sort of chart out a development plan that is personalized but takes advantage of what the company offers and then requires the employee to go do the rest themselves, this idea that companies have to, serve up a career on a silver platter, I think is erroneous. But doesn't mean that we can't be supportive and allow things like that to be, people to move from department to department if they're qualified, if they've proven themselves to be, a good team player. So one is, so whatever number I'm on, right? It's messy, right? Because people are messy. It's messy because you can't, everyone wants to put things in boxes. People don't go into boxes very easily. And sort of once you give up once you embrace the chaos of that, it really is very powerful. The third piece is for employers is set up a corporate sponsored alumni program today. Most companies I talk to cannot tell me where more than 20% of their former employees are. What a squandered opportunity. You have their personal email. You had it when they left you, Right. There's lots of ways to keep yourself close to your former employees with a private Facebook group, with a private platform if you're large enough and you have the resources for that, with an email newsletter, by offering, if you're doing a friends and family thing, by offering them friends, family, and alumni thing, those kinds of things. There's lots of ways to keep people close to you. That doesn't take a lot of effort because you're already doing these things for your employees and for your best customers, but will return to you so many advantages. Then on the employee side, a few things. One is it's not the company's job to give you your career. It is your job to craft your career, which most people understand, I think. Although I would say people coming out of college, it's always been challenging to go from being a senior in college to being the bottom rung. Right. Right. There's a woman in my office who calls it my freshman year of life, right? The first year after college. It's always been hard. This is nothing new. This is nothing about being a millennial. This is everything about just being, becoming an adult and becoming independent. There are many different things about that for this generation. So one is to say, to know yourself, know what you want to do, know what you're good at, listen. If you get a lot of people graduate from college are just paralyzed by what will I do with my life. There really is no bad decision to make, right? Get in a job. Be there for at least a year, learn what you can learn about yourself, about the industry, about the task at hand, and then you can start charting a career. Be open with your boss about what you're trying to accomplish. Seek all the feedback you can. Take all the self-assessments you can, take the Enneagram, take the MBTI, do strength finders, do all these things, because the more you know yourself, the better it is. And forge good relationships. When you're a great team player, people want to put themselves up for you. And if you decide where you are is not where you want to be, don't be stupid when you leave, and keep all those people close to you over time. And when you see an opportunity for your former employer, meaning, oh, Jen, you know what? I know you're not happy at ABC Co. I think you should go over here. Let me call my old boss and see what's available because I think you do really well there. Or, you're in a partner, you're in your new company and you're looking for a partner in a specific thing. You know what? I think ABC Co would be a great partner of ours, blah, 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 blah. When you're doing those kinds of things, when you're helping, it pays back all the time. You can't necessarily see it immediately, but it pays back all the time. And that's really sort of the thinking about it long term, not just the short term people pay you or you get paid.
So these sound great, and they also sound like they take a lot of time. And and my initial analogy is like, teaching your kids manners. It's a
Right.
heck of a lot of work when they're little to make them say, please, thank you, excuse me, etc. all of the time. But it sure as heck pays off when they're grown up. So is that the same kind of idea? You're nurturing employees and learning and being self-aware in your career as an employee.
Yeah. So I think there's two things in that. You can either spend the time with your employees or you can spend the time recruiting their replacements. You decide, right? Every time you lose an employee before you wanted to, replacing that employee takes about the cost of replacing an employee is about 2 to 3 times their salary. So if someone makes $50,000, that's $150,000. The time it takes to replace personnel who you wish you hadn't lost is so destructive, right? Because you have to find the next person. You have to bring them up to speed. The average onboarding process takes 6 to 9 months before someone's, actually utilizable. If that person isn't fully utilizable and you're not doing anything to keep them utilizable, well, they're running for the door looking for that next opportunity, particularly if they're young. So you can either spend the time on the back end or you can spend it in the front end. Time is not negotiable. It really depends where you want to put it.
And I like the idea about the employee taking responsibility for their own self-growth and their own development.
Yeah. Well, it used to be you got a job and you sort of went up the career path. It was ladder, right? And I'm a boomer. I'm the last year boomer. And we boomers are called the wait my turn generation. There were so many of us, and our economy when we were coming into the workplace was exploding. 25 years of explosive growth in North America. Probably we'll never see that again we'll never see that again in North America. Africa might see that, right?
Right.
But at the same time as we had huge population explosion, we got used to, one, companies needing us and not wanting to get rid of us because that was just the expectation, right? And two, the economy and these companies could absorb us all, right? They absorbed us, right? So we were the wait my turn generation. We would just wait your turn, and that next position will come available. I was a fast riser, so I didn't really wait my turn, but there was always a position for me. I never had a problem finding work. I was moved up in every organization. Again, the economy was expanding. So, but since 1990, first in this country, there was the mid 80s, there was a blip, but really 2000 on, right? As the game's gone. Right. That game is gone. Mm-hmm. And those careers that were really hierarchical really have nothing to do with today's experience, right? Hierarchy is antithetical to the millennial experience where it's such a flat world to them having one-to-one access to so many people. And we really talk today about more of a lattice career where you might go up a few rungs and then over and then up to an angle and all that kind of stuff, and people expect to have between 4 and 7 careers over time. So I've had the same career my whole working life. I've been in public relations and communications since I graduated from college. This is going to be an anathema. I'm going to look like a dinosaur. Of course, I've reinvented myself a million times, and now I'm an author and a keynoter and all this kind of stuff. But I've been in the same career. This is going to be very unusual for the millennial generation.
But the millennial generation can build upon the skills that they learn in each position. Doesn't matter what the position
Absolutely.
is. Yeah.
Doesn't matter what the position, there's something to learn with everything. And so I mentor some people. I talk to a lot of people when I'm out doing my workshops who, I just want to leave here. And I always ask, how long have you been here? I've been here for 5 months. And I say, are you at risk? Do you feel like you're at risk? Meaning you're being gender biased against, you're being sexually harassed, all these kind of things. No, most people say no. I'm like, don't leave. Stay for a year. Stay for a year. Write down 3 things you want to learn by the end of that year. Write down 3 things you want to learn by the end of that year. And then go look for a job. Because what do you know now? You know that you don't like your job. Do you not like sitting all day? Were you disappointed because it's not what you thought it was going to be? What don't you like about it? Do you not like it because you don't think you're important? Do you not like it because, you don't get to do the big job? What don't you like? And then I always say, no one hires somebody for a job that doesn't have to get done. So someone is counting on you. Someone is counting on you to do your job. And if you don't do your job, they can't do their job. So one, know that you're important, right? Figure out why you're important. Go ask. Ask what this role is all about. If you don't know, ask. Number two is what 3 things you want to learn. And then go learn those things. And then you can leave. And about 50% of the time, those people come back to me and say, people who come back to me say, oh my gosh, Lee, thank you for telling me those things. It's my 3rd year here, blah, 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 blah. Or, oh my gosh, Lee, thank you for telling me those things. No one says they didn't learn something from that, right? Thank you for telling me those things. I've learned X, Y, Z, and now I'm ready to go do something different. And they're more equipped. A year under your belt at some place, 5 months is terrible. 1 month, unless you're in risk. Unless you're at risk, which some people are at risk in some situations, or they feel like they're being harassed, mentally challenged, all this kind of stuff. There's lots of, right now in March 2017, there are many stories about .com and Silicon Valley companies who are toxic workplaces. If you're in a toxic workplace, get out. Right. I agree. Most workplaces aren't toxic.
And it doesn't look very good, unless you are in some kind of danger. It doesn't look very good on a resume to have been at some place. I mean, you might as well not put it on if it was a month
exactly.
on a resume, but even 5 months, it doesn't look very good if you're job hopping because you're bored.
Yeah. If you're bored, it's probably your own fault.
Yeah.
There's lots to do. There's lots to do in any company. If you have one thing we do here, and I recommend this for all managers, everybody should know, what skill do you have that you think we could use here that we don't know about, right? My assistant, David, who's awesome, couldn't do what I do every day without him. He is an actor and he's an artist. Well, I knew about the acting thing because when I hired him, he said, I want to be an actor too. If I get cast, can we work out a different schedule? And I said, of course, we'll figure that out. Then one day I see him doodling and it's amazing. Amazing. I'm like, what is that? Did you do that? Yeah. Well, why didn't you tell me? Oh, I didn't think you could use it. I'm like, what? Oh my goodness. I said, what else can you do? So now he's part of the graphic arts team, so he loves it. It's not his primary job, but here's a skill he loves to do that he gets to contribute. So what if you have a skill that people don't know about?
Exactly.
You probably do. You probably have a skill or a passion that people don't know about.
And some of those some of those skills do translate. I've got 2 millennial adult children who are both through university for musical theater, and they both have many different areas of interest. But my daughter's working as an administrative assistant right now, and she was hired because not because of her admin skills, because she didn't have any. She sent me a text saying, "Mom, what are minutes?" And her boss
60 of them in an hour.
And her boss asked her in the interview if she knew how to prepare documents, and she's kind of sassy, and she looked at him and she said, "Would you consider my resume a document?" And he said, "Yes." Then she said, "Then I guess I know how."
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
So she was hired for her people skills because, of course, if you've been through 3 years of acting school, you have people skills. So there are many other passions and interests that can translate. That makes sense, for sure.
Absolutely. My son is a musician. He's in school. He's going to get a bachelor's of music in organ, playing the organ, of all things. Bachelor of Arts in something else. He hasn't decided yet. And he'll get 2 degrees in 5 years. And I just said music he went to high school for music, and now he's, and he wanted to get a BA, BM because, if you're a musician today, or if you're any artist, you've got to be your own promotions team. You've got to do all this other stuff. So, who knows where it'll take him, but he's going to look different on every job opportunity. If he decides never to do the organ as a profession, and just have it as a side gig, he's still going to look different from every other kid who I'm going to look at as a resume, Right. So your kids are probably, your degree has, unless you're going to be a physicist, right? Your degree has nothing to do with I'll take that back. Your degree does not have to do anything with, doesn't have to have much to do with what you do for a living. More importantly is to learn how to learn and learn how to write and communicate, because you're going to learn all this stuff on the job.
Yeah, and there are so many people with undergrads in this, that, and the other that don't have anything to do with what they're doing, but it is a place to grow.
Yeah, absolutely. So this young man on my podcast, Everything Speaks, and he was talking about his sort of unorthodox, what he considered an unorthodox job progression. He's 28 or 29 now. He had a degree in trumpet performance from Indiana University, sort of halfway through that BM and Masters of Music, MM, I think that's what it's called. He realizes, I'm not sure I want to do this anymore, because it's very challenging to string together a career that way. Then he found rock climbing and became a rock climbing instructor at an indoor rock climbing gym. And then, musicians in general and theater in general, these people are really, they're good team players because they have to be.
Right.
It's very natural to them. And all of a sudden he's managing a team. And now he's in a software organization. He's in a software company managing a team of salespeople. Like, how'd you get from trumpet performance to being in a pre-IPO company? Well, skills translate.
They do.
Learn something in every job.
I love that you mentioned the Enneagram.
Love the Enneagram.
Me too.
Such a huge fan.
Me too.
What are you? Can I tell you what you are?
I'm a 1. What are you?
You're a 1. An 8.
I
didn't want to be an 8. That's how I knew I was an 8.
Of course.
I'm a social 8 with a strong 9 wing.
Oh, there you go.
Thank God. Not a 7 wing. I really wanted to be a 7, the enthusiast. But no, I'm not.
Yes, I love it. And it's not all that widely known, strangely enough, especially in business circles, it seems.
Yeah. I'm going to get her name wrong. I think it's Beverly Chestnut, who has just written a book called Managing the 9 Types for Businesses.
Oh, good.
And takes it out of sort of the woo-woo land of Enneagram, which there's a lot of woo-woo around it.
Yeah.
It's so powerful. My husband and I did it personally, because we are one of our couple friends, they all of a sudden were getting along so much better. I'm like, what'd you guys do? And they told us. And so we went and did the Enneagram. And it's been so useful in my personal life. And now there's actually a couple of tests. And I can send you this for your show notes, Jen.
Sure.
There's a new test that is backed by the people in Australia who are sort of the pinnacle of Enneagram teachers. All the research, all the numerology, and they sort of the efficacy is around 80% now, which it's an oral tradition, so it's hard to match yourself up anyway, But I'll send you that. And I'm reading that book right now on the 9 types of business, and it is so, so helpful.
That would be great. I'll have to add that to my reading list for sure. For sure.
When people come into my company, they all take Strength Finders, which Tom Rath's book. It's a very small book. There's a little code in the back of it. You take a test online, and it yields to you your top 5 or 6 strengths and why, how to use, what they are and how they manifest themselves. Everybody takes the MBTI, the Myers-Briggs type indicator. And we're gonna, now that this Enneagram test has efficacy, I'm gonna start adding that one in as well, because the better you know yourself, the better you can manage yourself, and the better you know yourself, the better you can help other people work with you. So what we do is everyone takes the Strength Finders and the MBTI so far, and we create a profile page for each person. Which is 2-sided, and it's, what your type is, what the strengths are from Strength Finders, how these people act in, it's not obviously perfect, but in stressful situations and positive situations, when you're giving them critical feedback, what's the best way to do it? Just so we have extra tools, right? Because everyone's so different, which we know so much more about today than we did when I was coming into the workplace. We should all be doing this stuff for our people.
It's the nurture part.
Mm-hmm.
And absolutely, I would think that the whole atmosphere of a workplace that spent the time doing this kind of thing would be different.
I think so. There's a lot more levity around it, right? Because you can say, so I'm an ENFP. So here are all my things, right? I'm an ENFP, a strong ENFP. I'm a social 8 with a 9 wing. And my strengths are strategy, arranging. I can't remember though. What I don't have is any woo. I got no woo. Anyway, and then on the disc profile, I'm a high D, really high I. You can't get higher on I, low S, low C. Well, so I know all these things about me, and I share that with everybody. Here's my profile. So one, I know I can see when I am not when I'm blind spotting. Now I can see when I'm blind spotting and when I think I'm assertive. Other people call me aggressive when things are not going so well. And my face, my what is it called? RBF, resting something face.
Right.
I don't know. I don't feel it at all, but it looks scary, right? So now people know, Lee, you look scary. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I'm not mad. I'm not angry. I'm thinking.
Uh-huh.
And because we know this about each other, they go, you look really scary. Just tell me I look scary, and I'll fix it. But we all have these human nature things that when you can share those things, it's a very vulnerable place, right? Because it's saying that you're not perfect. Well, please don't make me perfect. But it also is a place of power. What I'm really good at, where you should focus me on, it's not, is over here. Put me in these kind of situations, not in these kind of situations. Should never be a crutch. Just because, your type isn't detail oriented doesn't mean you get off the hook for, crossing your T's and dotting your I's. It means that you have to pay more attention to it. Right. Anyway, I highly advise all people, no matter how old you are, to, and if you're looking for work, these are great tools for you to go back. If you've done it before, go back to them now. If you haven't done them, do them now. That will sort of illuminate for you your strengths and where you're best suited, because who doesn't want to work there?
Exactly. And I'm all about the self-awareness, self-growth for life. And figuring out who you are and how you react and what triggers you and, why you behave the way you behave, because it's not cookie cutter. And we used to do the factory model where everybody did, exactly the same job and behaved exactly the same way or else. And we're just not there anymore.
And how'd that work out for us? Not very well.
So sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
I was going to say, this happened last week. Something, one of my employees had asked somebody else for something that it came out of left field. And I was like, and I did not have a positive reaction. And we were talking, the three of us were talking, and they're like, what are you thinking, Lee? I'm like, I'm thinking I should go sleep on this. Because if I react right now, I'm not going to respond out of a good space. So let me go sleep on this. And Lee 10 years ago would never have done that. Lee 10 years ago would have right? And I would not have thought I was doing that at all. I would have thought I'm being very rational. Of course, I'm not scary, blah, blah, blah. But I've come to understand that about myself, and I'm such a better leader and a better teammate because of that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I was called out the other day on being defensive in a meeting. And it was... You know what?
That's a one.
Yeah, and I thought afterwards, you're right. She was right. Yeah. I was feeling defensive.
Right.
So it was good for me to go home and think about that. Why was I feeling that way? So it's always good to be self-reflective, and it's a learned thing.
Yeah, learned thing. And if we know this about each other, then we can say about each other, okay, strategy lady, you need some woo. Bring in Maggie, or hello, Miss Arranger. We all need a little chance to catch up to you, Yeah. Yeah. Come to think about it, they probably use it against me more than anything else, but it's useful.
That's great. So if you were going to give a piece of advice to our listener on how to cultivate loyalty, what would you give?
A few things. One, loyalty is all about relationship, and the more we can keep in relationship with the people that we've worked with, organizations that we've worked through, the more opportunity you will have. And part of that relationship is being helpful. The more helpful you are in your industry, the more helpful you are to your network, the more helpful you are in general, the more opportunity will come to you. It just comes through in manners. The best example I have two examples. One is please and thank you. The more you say please and thank you, the more people want to work with you. And RSVPs. When you get invited to something, most people don't RSVP anymore, and they don't even know what that means. It means respondez-vous, s'il vous plaît, which you would know in Canada, but people don't know what it means. It means you have to tell us if you're coming or not, right. Basically. And people in this country, at least, don't do that. But if you do RSVP, even when you say you can't go, you rank higher up in the universe of who's invited. Thank you so much for the invitation. I'm sorry I can't be there. You will get invited again. If you don't RSVP and you don't show, well, maybe they'll invite you again once, but not the second time. And the more things you're invited to, the more opportunities you're going to have, even if you can't go. So those are my two pieces of advice.
Fabulous. Well, thank you for all of this. It's been a lot to think about and lots of fun. And if people want to find out more about you and go and see what you're up to and look at your book that's coming out April, right? Where can they go?
They should go to my website, which is www.leecaraher.com, LeeCaraher.com, where they can find my agency, Double Forte. They can find my books. They can find my speaking stuff. They can find some free resources, my reading list, all that kind of thing. And you can follow me on Twitter at Lee Caraher, where I put my blog and my podcast, Everything Speaks and Focus is Your Friend.
Fabulous. And we'll put all of the links on the show notes and some of the links to some of the things that you've mentioned as well. And it's been a slice.
Thank you so much, Jen, for having me. What a great honor to be with you.
Thanks so much, Lee. We'll talk soon.
Awesome.
So I hope you enjoyed that conversation. I know I did, and I think Lee and I could have spoken for a lot longer than the time that we had set aside. But we seem to have a lot of things in common, and I really enjoyed her energy and her passion in what she was saying. So do go and check out her information at her website and say hello to her and let her know that you heard her on this show, and look for her book that is coming out just next month if you're listening to this still in March. And if not, I'm sure you'll be able to find it in all the usual places after April 11th, I believe, is her launch date. So wonderful, wonderful. Life is good here. Lots going on. I've got all sorts of workshops and speaking things that I've been doing, and I'm starting to work on the next course to put up on the courses.communicationdiva.com. I have a resume course there that helps you get your resume ready in under an hour. And I've got a couples communication course up there that is called Marriage Works, but it doesn't have to be for couples who are considering marriage. Anyone in a long-term committed relationship who wants to work on their communication skills will be able to learn something from that course. So those are up on the website under courses, online courses, and I'm going to start working soon on a course for interviewing skills, how to interview and how to, tips and tricks for interviewing well. I know a lot of people feel like they don't interview well. And so this will help you to be able to do that. So I'm hoping to get that course up in the next month. We'll see how time goes. It's a little busy, but that is my next project. So thank you so much for listening. Come on over to iTunes and give a shout out to the Communication Diva podcast there. Leave me a note on SpeakPipe or on the website comment section. And until next time, I'll be bringing you a show next week talking about relationships in the workplace. So until next time, keep communicating, and we'll talk to you soon.